What is up, people? Today I will be reviewing Silence of the Lambs, the Criterion edition, and I got that coming up for you guys next. So, Silence of the Lambs, the Criterion edition. This is going to be a little bit of a different review just because I normally review the 4K version of a movie as well, but this didn't come out in 4K, and that is because, I just felt like I really needed to get into some Criterion releases for you guys. That is a big part of the industry, so I figured what better place to start with but Silence of the Lambs. This came out about 2 weeks ago, and yeah, let's get right into it. So this is just a straight up Blu-ray, but at the same point in time, this is actually a 4K scan of the negative. So much like the Christopher Nolan collection that I was talking about, it is pretty much the same process here and to the same really great effect, because even though this was not a 4K disc, I still feel like this is a gigantic uptick from the normal Blu-ray, just because I hate that damn thing. I actually have it right here, and yeah, this thing is murky and just muddy, god-awful, soft. I really hate it, and I love the fact that I have this version of it, because this 4K scan of this is really top-notch. Right off the top, the black levels and the problem with the murky elements of the original scan, I just feel like is largely fixed here. The black levels here are really great, and along with that comes a big increase in clarity, because there is a lot of clarity here. There's a lot of detail. When you get those close-ups of Anthony Hopkins and really get into his eyes, because his eyes are so important here, and the special features actually go into the fact that they actually had a chelate on his eyes to emphasize them more, and with this uptick in clarity, you can definitely see all of the just facial features of Anthony Hopkins and his eyes, and it's really cool. Now, this movie was not shot to be the most smoothest and the most aesthetically pleasing film out there. I feel like this is a very grimy, very gritty movie, as it should be, but because of that, there is a healthy amount of grain here, but it's very controlled, with the exception of the outdoor scenes at the beginning of the film when Clarice is training at the FBI, and all of the mist that is behind her and the fog. It's a really striking image, but at the same point in time, I feel like it does break down here a little bit. It is not as clear, and it is just the roughest point of this transfer. I feel like it's the roughest point of the older transfer too, but it's definitely improved here, but at the same time, it still doesn't look the greatest. But hey guys, this, like I've said, is a grainy, very gritty film, and you know what? It is very well represented here, and for that I do have to give it a 9 out of 10. This is, quite frankly, the best that you're going to see Silence of the Lambs look, people. So next I'm going to be getting into the audio of the Silence of the Lambs, and I got that coming up for you next. So the audio of Silence of the Lambs. Now here, with Criterion, they do like to do a stereo track and a 5.1 track. That is something that they've done with a lot of older films that they've done, and they do it here. I listened to both, and I will just say that the stereo track is really good, and it definitely is if you are looking for the intent of this movie or how this movie is intended to sound, well, you know, you might want to go with the 2.0 track. But I really am very much of a millennial when it comes to this kind of stuff, so I do like my 5.1 tracks. So that is what I'll be reviewing here, and I will just say that this track is really good. When you get the start of the movie, when you hear that ominous score, it really is very well represented here. And even though that this is, I believe, the same 5.1 track that is on the old Blu-ray, this one is still really good. When we go into the jail where Hannibal Lecter is, you definitely get the noises of the inmates in the surround speakers, and you get a very hefty, very substantial boost in bass as well. And you know what? This track is very well represented here. And for that, I do have to give it a 8 out of 10. I don't feel like this is any, great shakes, but I feel like it is something that is very well represented here nonetheless. So next, you know what I'm going to be getting into? I'm going to be getting into some special features, and you won't want to miss it because Criterion definitely loaded a bunch in here. And I got that coming up for you next. So the special features for Silence of the Lambs. Oh man, there is a whole lot to talk about here, but before that, I do have to get into something that I actually wanted to do for this release and any release that offers something a little different. And that is, I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at the box art and the additional stuff that actually comes in the packaging here. So first we have this very cool and slick slipcover right here. It definitely has that unique box art that we've never seen before, at least I haven't. And then once you open this up like so, it is kind of hard to open, but then you have this very cool box art on this side. This is pretty damn awesome. I do love it. And then you have on this open side the very cool Silence of the Lambs book that it comes with, and that definitely offers a little bit of insight into the movie, and you definitely can see the pictures that it offers, and it definitely has like a whole bunch of, it has like an introduction with Jodie Foster, and then it has a Hero of Time, which is like a little mini book that definitely offers a lot more insight into the filming of the movie. So this is very cool. And then, of course, you have, this is actually like a 2-disc set because you have the movie itself, and then you have the special features right here because there are definitely a lot of special features and we will talk about them. And on top of that, I do want to state that no digital copy here. That is something that Criterion always does. I don't have any Criterion release that actually has a digital copy, but it's fine with me, to be honest with you. So getting into the actual special features here, this is actually the second time that Criterion has released Silence of the Lambs. And that is because on DVD, they actually released Silence of the Lambs. And on that release, there was an audio track that I never got to hear just because I never owned it. But here it is amazing. And it has a whole slew of people. It has Anthony Hopkins, Jodie Foster, you got Jonathan Demme, and Ted Talley, who is the scriptwriter here. And wow, just listening to them talk about this is worth the price of this disc altogether. I would say that this is one of my favorite commentary tracks that I own, really. And it's a really old one. It does come across as kind of rough. It's definitely not the same structure that people use today, but at the same point in time, it just has a whole lot of information. And just listening to these people talk about their contribution to this movie is really, really good stuff. You have an hour-long interview with Jonathan Demme and Jodie Foster talking about the film as well. You have a hour-long making of the movie where they talk about that key light on Anthony Hopkins' eyes that I talked about earlier, and it is just a whole lot of information for you guys if you guys are inclined to find out. You have a documentary that goes into adapting the actual book to the screen, and you have a featurette that actually goes into the score of the film. And trust me, that is one that is really cool because I actually do like the score here quite a bit. This, people, you cannot ask for anything more than what actually comes here. And you know what? For that, I do have to give it a 10 out of 10. This is something really awesome for you guys. Get this Criterion release for nothing but the special features here. It is the shining point of this, actually. So next, I'm going to be getting into my last looks and my overall grades for Silence of the Lambs, the Criterion edition, coming up for you guys next. Silence of the Lambs is an amazing movie that is absolutely a classic. When you want to talk about police thrillers or a police procedural, you want to talk about Silence of the Lambs. And I feel like that is something that is overlooked about this movie. This is an amazing police procedural, people. And it is also an amazing character piece of a serial killer. You know, you have Hannibal Lecter here, but also you have Buffalo Bill, and even though he's a little underserviced, you don't really understand what makes him what he is. But at the same point in time, it's just a really great film, and if you didn't watch my movie review of Silence of the Lambs, I gave it a 10 out of 10. And then when you add up all my scores, that actually comes out to a 37 out of 40. That is a really high score for a really awesome box set here, and I do love it. So next, I do have to get into Hell or High Water. It is a movie that I've been wanting to talk to you guys about, and with the new release of the 4K Blu-ray, hey, there is no better time. So if you are excited about it, comment below and let me know about that. And subscribe so you know when that video comes out. And as always, guys, you guys are awesome. And I will see all of you next time.